Coming up, forcing disabled people to choose whether to go thirsty or go to the toilet. The charity calling flying care visits a disgrace. Encouraged by new evidence, Jerry McCann on the search for Madeleine. And crowns for goalposts, the footy fixture at the Palace. The call to end the indignity of rushed care. The charity slamming 15-minute flying visits for the elderly and disabled, saying they're forcing people to choose whether to go thirsty or go to the toilet. Also this lunchtime, encouraged by new evidence, Jerry McCann on the search for Madeleine.
We are optimistic that new pieces will be uncovered that will fill in parts of the jigsaw.
Is this the British FBI or just a rebranding, the new crime-fighting squad? And royal jumpers for goalposts, why Prince William's organised an historic football match on his grandmother's lawn.
One warning though, if anyone breaks a window, you can answer to her.
This is ITV News with Nina Hossain.
Good afternoon. How long does it take you to get ready in the morning? Well, for some disabled and elderly people who need help, they have no choice but to get washed and dressed in less than 15 minutes. One charity has called these so-called flying visits a disgrace, saying they force people to choose between going to the toilet or going thirsty, and more councils are using them. But some care bosses say the short visits are fully justified. Sue Saville has more.
Just 15 minutes is all the time an increasing number of councils allocate for a care visit to an elderly or disabled person. Not long enough for all the basic care, let alone a little conversation or a companionable cup of tea, say campaigners who want the government to legislate for a minimum half-hour slot.
And we know that some people who have these care visits really don't get the care that they need. So, for example, one woman who's 84, who has a number of different disabilities, said that she has to choose between having a drink and going to the loo. And we do not think anybody should be making that kind of choice in modern Britain.
In a survey of local councils in which 63 replied, nearly two-thirds commissioned just 15-minute home visits. That's up by 15% in 5 years. And in a separate poll, nearly all surveyed say carers need more time to do their jobs properly. Care organisations themselves want central and local government to sort this out.
I think we need to ask, can care be delivered with dignity and sometimes with safety in very short periods of time? One of the things people tell us is just how important social contact is when they receive care at home. It's very difficult to imagine how you can greet and make sure that somebody's okay, as well as trying to run through some quite complex tasks, including medication and helping people use the bathroom.
As the care bill reaches its final stages this week, the government acknowledges change is needed.
Tough finances are part of the problem, but it's not enough attention to really focusing on improving an individual's well-being. And through the care bill this week, we're introducing an amendment which will require local authorities to take into account, to focus on an individual's well-being when determining what services they should provide to that individual.
Campaigners see this care bill as a vital chance to put dignity back into caring. Sue Saville, ITV News.
Ros Olman campaigns on pensioners' rights, and she joins me now. Some of the bosses in charge of care for the elderly, for the disabled, are saying it is fully justified to do these visits within 15 minutes. In your opinion, is it ever possible? Are there some people that can be seen in a very short space of time?
To be honest, Nina, I really don't think you can call a 15-minute visit social care. It's neither social nor proper care. You know, you've got the most vulnerable people very often whose only contact is with somebody who comes and helps them get out of bed, puts them on the toilet, maybe make a cup of tea and sit them in their chair for the day. And if we in 21st century Britain think that it's decent to do that in just 15 minutes, then I think we need to think again.
Given the social care bosses, some of them are saying it is okay to do this length of time. Have you got any hope that anything will change out there?
Well, I think we also need to look at the point of view of the people who are doing the care. You know, that's the other side of the equation, because many of the care workers are on minimum wage. They would get maybe £8, at most maybe £10 an hour, but they're not paid for travel time and they are not paid for the costs of travelling. If they have 4 15-minute visits to do, they don't earn the £10 or the £8, whatever it is. They have to take off the travel time and they have to take off the costs. It can mean that to do that visit, they might earn little more than £1. How can we call that treating either the staff or the individuals who need care decently? And part of the problem is that we don't put enough money into the social care system. And it does boil down to the fact that government's got debts, but also a lot of the firms providing care have got big debts. They're private equity owned and they're worrying about profit. The whole system needs rethinking.
All right, Ros Olman, thank you very much for your thoughts on this issue.
Nina.
Thank you. The father of Madeleine McCann has told ITV News he is encouraged by new evidence in the search for his daughter. British police are currently following new leads by trawling through mobile phone records. It is 6 years since she went missing from the couple's holiday apartment in Portugal. Juliet Bream spoke to Jerry McCann this morning.
There's a new urgency about the search for clues surrounding the disappearance of Madeleine McCann in Portugal 6.5 years ago. Today, her father told me the new investigation led by detectives from the Metropolitan Police has given them real hope of a breakthrough.
Well, I think it is clearly, we're encouraged that there is new evidence and the appeals will hopefully lead to further new evidence. And what Kate and I feel, without talking about any details in that, is very much in the hands of the Met. But we're optimistic that new pieces will be uncovered that will fill in parts of the jigsaw.
He has just returned from Portugal, where he and Kate are in the middle of libel proceedings against a former detective who claimed Madeleine's disappearance had been faked. The couple believe that press abuses following the original police investigation have added to the difficulties in establishing what really happened to their daughter.
Widespread headlines, not only suggesting that we were involved, but suggesting that there was strong evidence that Madeleine was dead, and no such evidence exists. If people believe a missing child is dead, they're not going to look for her, or they're not going to come forward with information which might be important.
Although British detectives are working with the same data that was available back in 2007, they're now undertaking a systematic search and analysis of the mobile phones in use close to the McCann's apartment in Praia de Luz. Despite their ordeal, the couple cling to the belief that Madeleine may have survived.
There's been a number of cases over the last few years of children and young women being found after having been taken and held for very long periods of time. So we've always had hope, and as parents, we won't accept Madeleine is dead until we see evidence, clear evidence that that is the case.
Her face has become a haunting reminder of the unsolved case. Belatedly, Madeleine's parents are daring to hope there could be resolution.
Yeah, Jerry McCann saying he's encouraged by new evidence. What do you think that could be?
Well, the detectives who are leading the British end of this inquiry are being very quiet about the precise theories about it. But what I think we can say with some confidence is that they are working on this massive mountain of mobile data, and they liken it to peeling back the layers of an onion. And at the centre of that onion is the precise moment that Madeleine disappeared. And what they want to do is find which mobile phones were closest to her at that moment and trace those people. They say it would be unhelpful to go into theories about how she may have disappeared, but they hope that, given this new evidence, other people will come forward and give them concrete facts about what they remember seeing that night, which, if they're lucky, will allow them to come up with the precise reasons for her disappearance rather than this endless rounds of speculations that we've had up to this point of time.
All right, Juliet Bream, thank you. Investors have been rushing to buy shares in Royal Mail following reports the company has been undervalued by as much as £1 billion. Labour says the sale is ripping off the taxpayer and is calling for the government to pull the plug on privatisation. Our economics editor Richard Edgar has been looking at the numbers. Why are people getting so excited about these shares, Richard?
Well, I think the privatisations have historically attracted quite a lot of interest, if you remember British Gas and British Telecom in the 1980s. And in fact, this is the biggest privatisation since the railways were sold off in the 1990s. Now, the reports that the Royal Mail shares were oversubscribed within hours of this application process starting only 10 days ago. So there's likely to be some sort of rationing, that applicants will only get a proportion of these shares that they ask for. I've been talking today to traders in the city, and they've confirmed these high levels of interest in the shares, and they think this means that shares are going to be pushed much higher when they float on the stock market on Friday. Let's take a look at what that means in terms of the numbers. When this was all launched, the government bankers expected the shares to cost between £2.60 and £3.30 when they were floated. Traders I've been talking to say that demand is such that they expect shares to go as high as £4 when they're floated on Friday, which means the government is almost certain to get the £2 billion that it's hoping to raise from this privatisation. But that means that there is controversy too. Labour says that this means that this has been oversubscribed, and that's what Labour's business secretary is saying. It's been undervalued,
Is they have started the process, and it's a botched process because it has attributed the wrong value to this prized national asset. And the people who will gain will be the city speculators and the hedge fund managers. The people who will lose out will be constituents in my constituency and will be people in every single constituency in the country.
Well, Royal Mail hopes to be able to raise money from the markets, which it needs to invest in facilities like this and modernise. It's facing competition from private companies like TNT. It already delivers in West London. Next month, it starts challenging Royal Mail in Manchester.
Richard Edgar, thank you. Still to come, a warning from Prince William ahead of the first ever football match at Buckingham Palace.
Malala's story has moved not just myself, but many millions of people around the world.
And the pride of Britain, Malala meets Beckham as the country's heroes prepare to be recognised. David Cameron is right now in the middle of a government reshuffle. The biggest casualty so far is the senior Liberal Democrat Michael Moore losing his cabinet post of Scottish Secretary. The Prime Minister is also changing a number of middle-ranking ministers with an aim of promoting more women and MPs from the north. Our Deputy Political Editor Chris Shipp is in Downing Street. Only one cabinet change so far.
Yes, this is actually one of those reshuffles where politicians you haven't heard of get jobs you didn't know existed and replace MPs that you haven't really seen very much before. That might be overly simplistic, a little harsh, but this isn't a wholesale change of David Cameron's cabinet. The George Osbornes, the William Haigs, the Theresa Mays all stay in place. This is about changing the next rung down in the ministerial ladder, those, if you like, who are knocking on the door of the cabinet. Now, as you say, the one exception to that is the Scottish Secretary Michael Moore. The Lib Dems hold 5 posts in cabinet. This is one of them. Nick Clegg has replaced him with Alistair Carmichael, who will take the fight to Alex Salmond over the next year. There's less than a year to go now until the referendum on independence in Scotland, and Alistair Carmichael admits that he will now be making the case for the union.
Well, look, I've worked with Alex Salmond for 9 years here at Westminster. We were both MPs, we both represented fishing communities, and if he wants to work with me, I will be more than happy to work with him. But let's not pretend that on the one issue that is going to matter for the next 12 months, that is to say Scotland's constitutional future, that we're going to agree. I suspect that we never will.
Promotion for Alistair Carmichael. Who else has been given a new job today?
Well, the line that's been keeping people amused around here today: if you're white and male and southern, then don't bother standing by your phone. Actually, the serious point here is the government recognises it's got an image problem. It looks out of touch, it looks too southern. So some key promotions: Esther McVeigh, who born and bred in Liverpool, Sajid Javid, a Birmingham MP, but he was born in Rochdale, and also Mike Penning, who, yes, he's white and southern, but he's also a former firefighter and from Essex. He's been put in charge of welfare. And all of that isn't enough for you. Labour are promising to hold their own reshuffle tonight. So exciting times here.
Chris Shipp indeed, thank you. A new agency to fight crime launched today, being compared by some as being similar to America's FBI. The National Crime Agency will tackle organised crime such as drugs and people trafficking. It started today with dawn raids in London and Liverpool, but critics say it's just a rebrand of what it's replacing. Piers Hopkirk has the details.
A dawn raid on a house in south-east London. Moments later, a man is led away in handcuffs. This, one of the first operations by the National Crime Agency. Labelled the British FBI, it's been set up to tackle some of the UK's most serious crimes.
Well, from today, we'll have a national agency that's leading the whole of the UK's fight to cut serious and organised crime. So we'll develop a single intelligence picture of criminals and their groups, those that are involved in serious organised crime. We'll work with the whole of law enforcement to prioritise the law enforcement attack on those individuals and groups, and we'll be continuously, day in, day out, disrupting their behaviour.
4,500 officers will tackle major organised crime, for example, drug and people trafficking, complex international fraud, including cybercrime, border policing and online protection. It'll get a budget of £500 million.
We want to see the increased disruption of organised crime gangs, so the impact that that will have will be on people's streets. The NCA is going to take a new approach. It will have new capabilities within it, a new cybercrime unit, a new intelligence hub, but also a border policing command and an economic crime command, which will increase our ability to deal with organised criminals.
The NCA replaces the Serious and Organised Crime Agency. Critics, though, say it amounts to little more than a name change.
Well, a lot of this obviously is a rebranding of existing organisations. We hope that the National Crime Agency will be a success, but it does have to cope with this 20% reduction in resources. So you do need strong action on serious and organised crime, but you also need backing from ministers rather than just the hype that we've had that isn't backed by the reality from the Home Secretary.
The government says it wants the NCA to be fit for the challenges of fighting 21st century crime. Its impact, though, will be judged by results. Piers Hopkirk, ITV News.
To our UK editor Lucy Manning now. Criticism then that this is just a soccer rebrand, a name change. Is that fair?
Well, if you excuse the pun, it's been launched this morning with all guns blazing. However, it is the third type of organisation that they've set up to try and deal with serious organised crime, and it doesn't have the same level of budget as soccer that went before it. Having said that, the police and the politicians are determined that they are going to try and deal with the 6,000 odd organised crime gangs. So there is a determination, and instead of individual forces sorting out what's happening on their own patch, there will be this overall strategy. What we have had is some interesting facts and figures about organised crime in the UK. Most handguns, it turns out, come from America. The United Arab Emirates and Holland are being used for money laundering by gangs. Will it work? Well, if the Mr. Bigs quake in their shoes, if more people end up in prison, then we'll know it has done.
Lucy Manning, thank you. Next is lunchtime. In a royal first, Buckingham Palace is right now playing host to its first ever football fixture. The match was Prince William's idea to mark 150 years of the FA from two of the country's clubs. Our royal correspondent Tim Hewitt is pitchside. How's it going so far then?
Seems to be going pretty well, actually. The match has just started. There's a good crowd here. They've had garden parties here before. They've even had concerts. They've even had a boxing match back in the 1950s, but they've never had a football match. This is an important one. It's for real. It's not a show match. This is the Southern Amateur League, Civil Service FC, the oldest member of the Football Association, against Polytechnic FC. Prince William's in the crowd. There's a great atmosphere. The Queen has let them use her lawn, but she's not here herself, although William did give the players a warning from his grandmother.
So there cannot be a more fitting setting to celebrate our national game and to celebrate all of you. I cannot tell you how excited I am that later today we will be playing football on my grandmother's lawn. One warning though, if anyone breaks a window, you can answer to her.
Well, the real reason for this occasion, of course, is the 150th anniversary of the Football Association, and this has been organised to pay tribute to those who have volunteered for it. Prince William has been meeting 150 FA volunteers this morning, ranging in age from 17 to 86, and he's praised them for the community spirit that they've engendered. The match at the moment is goalless. Beautiful pitch, lovely day for it.
Isn't it a nice pitch to mute? Buckingham Palace, thank you. Well, finally this lunchtime, Malala Yousafzai, the schoolgirl shot by the Taliban, has been presented with a Pride of Britain award by a surprise guest. The 16-year-old giggled when David Beckham walked in for the presentation. She was nominated by thousands of members of the public for her courage in standing up against the terrorists. Well, joining me now are two more of this year's winners. I'm delighted to say Sharon Gray has been named Teacher of the Year, and Clifford Harding, who is being recognised for his achievements as a youth worker and entrepreneur. Thank you both for coming in. Clifford, if I can start with you. You didn't have a job for nearly a decade. What changed to turn your life around so now you're sitting here ahead of this amazing ceremony?
Somebody passed away in my family, and I decided that, it's time to make a difference. And then from there, somebody told me about Prince's Trust, and then, from there, I literally started to grow. Prince's Trust opened so many doors for me. There's things out there for children and young people to do now. Prince's Trust can help you. Prince's Trust can help you, and the motivation, to have the motivation and the drive gets you through where you want to go.
A brilliant role model. Sharon, you went into your school. You told the parents and the council, I'm going to make this into an outstanding school. You did it. How did you do that? And how did you have such confidence in yourself?
Well, I didn't do it alone, obviously. I'm here representing a whole community of the most talented young people, adults, a whole team approach. And my question would be, well, why couldn't it be outstanding with that phenomenal talent and energy and commitment? And I knew, having met those folk within the community and the staff team, of which I feel privileged to be working with, that we could expect nothing less than that.
Clifford, how excited are you about tonight? What are you looking forward to most?
Meeting all the other winners, because, it's amazing to see how many people, help people or give their life to, to support people. It's amazing. I think the whole thing is just amazing.
And what about you, Sharon?
Exactly the same. We've already met some phenomenal people who, are just inspirational, absolutely inspirational. But I must say, getting on the stage, doing my little speech, and then getting down and sitting and relaxing, I think that's my key moment.
Yeah, both of you really enjoy this evening.
Thank you very
you deserve
much.
it. Thank you very much for coming in to talk to me. Thank you. And you can watch Clifford, Sharon and Malala all receiving their awards at the Daily Mirror Pride of Britain Awards on ITV tomorrow evening. That starts at 8 o'clock. But that is all we've got time for this lunchtime. Do join Mary Nightingale and Alistair Stewart, who will be here with all the latest updates on ITV News at 6:30. From everyone here for now, bye-bye.
It can get nippy up north, but we soon warm up. Faster, Colin!
Seven Seas Joint Care proudly sponsors the ITV National Weather.
Hello there, very good afternoon to you. I hope the new week is starting well for you. From a weather point of view, we are going to be seeing a fair amount of cloud and at times of fairly heavy rain across some parts of the UK, mostly up across the far northwestern parts of Scotland though, I think, although little bits of patchy rain is possible elsewhere. But we are going to be seeing some very good spells of dry, sunny weather across the central southeastern parts of England, and here lovely warm temperatures as well. That's certainly how it looks for the rest of the afternoon, with the best of the dry, bright weather across the central and eastern parts of England. Elsewhere it's cloudy with some heavy and steady rain at times, but mostly reserved for Northern Ireland and Western Scotland. As I say, from a temperature point of view, it's mild for everyone, but temperatures today peak at 20 Celsius in the southeast. Have a lovely afternoon. See you later.
Seven Seas Joint Care proudly sponsors the ITV National Weather.